Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my role as a coach and what I basically do over the weekend to help young drivers to learn, progress as they make their way up the ladder to Formula One. So I'm going to be using a lot of the examples of a race weekend I did not long ago as a coach at Donington Park with the GB3 Championship. For those of you that don't know, GB3 is a ladder. It's just before FIA F3. So if you were progressing, you go karting, maybe Janetta Junior, GB4, GB3, and then you're into FIA F3, F2, and F1. So before those real pinnacle major proving grounds, this is sort of like your last part of your learning school before you really get into the proving ground and show what you can do. So GB3, half the season is in the UK, the other half is in Europe. So it gives you time on F1 circuits, including Silverstone, Hungary, and next season we'll have Monza, Spa, and then from that you also have the UK circuits. Very different. They're a lot more tighter, a lot more, let's say, riskier, knife edgy. There's Autumn Park being an example of a circuit that really has no runoff. Donington Park, very knife edge circuits, that aren't quite F1 standard, but you also get to run on those as well to basically get your experience up and know what you're in for them when you go to FIA F3 with those same circuits. So the weekend's a little bit different to what you might know with Formula 1 or F2 and F3. We basically have 2 days of practice, so you have Thursday and Friday, and then you get into qualifying Saturday morning with the races Saturday afternoon and 2 on Sunday. The last race being a reverse grid race where only the top 12 is reversed. So the weekend starts off through Thursday, and on Thursday I'll basically stand at different corners throughout the day, and I'll watch my driver and everybody else go through those corners, and then I can say to my driver, you're doing X, they're doing Y, it's working for them here, it's not working for them here, and this is where it's working for you, and this is where it's not working for you, and maybe you need to be copying this person more with what they're doing, using this gear, and so on. When they come in after each session, we basically have a debrief where we can look through all the data of the car. This means I can see their throttle trace, brake trace, steering trace, and I can compare those laps to themselves, or I can compare them to teammates if they have teammates. If not, teams normally have a lot of data from when they've been running this car that they can pull up and use to back themselves against the driver. You kind of don't want to get too sucked into a driver copying another driver, because you need them to learn themselves of what they're doing, so comparing themselves to themselves. But it can definitely help in terms of that, like finding those steps of like, okay, we need to be braking this much later at this point or this much earlier. It just gives you a bit of an idea of what to look at, especially in terms of like technique as well, just looking at this person example of a brake trace that then our driver can copy. We then also have onboard cameras, so we literally have cameras on top of the car that will basically record from the start of the session as soon as the engine gets fired up to the end of the session. And this is really good because, again, I can see what lines they're doing, because although the data might show them braking at the right point, you might see they have understeer middle of the corner on the data. It's then good to look at the race line footage and basically go like, okay, the reason why it's not working is because you're a little bit offline, you're not losing enough road, you're middle of the corner, you're holding onto it too much here with the wheel when we need to be opening up a bit, and you can see a little bit more of that. So once we do that, we can also start looking at setup, and then this is where the driver will say he's feeling limited in certain areas with the car. So he, for example, might say middle to exit corner, I might feel like I've got understeer or oversteer. And then we'll look at the data and we can basically confirm that. And once we confirm that, we then work on what changes we can do with the car to give him what he needs. GB3 is fantastic in the fact that you have lots of aero changes you can do and mechanical grip changes. So this means the driver really gets to learn about, when I put this feedback in, I got this setup change, and this setup change led to this, whether it was better or worse, or however it was. Part of the sort of challenge as well of the weekend is that from Thursday to Sunday, the track evolution changes a lot. If it's a sunny weekend, then the circuit will really grip up, especially as the GT rubber goes down. And then you have to be very proactive in what you're doing with the setup to sort of predict that, okay, the line's going to be much grippier now. So we might need to take a bit of grip out of the car to compensate for that. And vice versa, if it suddenly rains mid-weekend, okay, now we need to make changes to the car, making it a bit softer, trying to get some grip into it just to make up for that. Again, different circuits, this changes a lot. A lot of the Grand Prix circuits like Silverstone, Hungaroring, they really grip up quite aggressively, and then offline becomes full of marbles and stuff, so it becomes more and more crucial to be on the right line and changing the setup to make sure it still works. Once you get into qualifying, strategy comes into play because you're allowed 2 new sets per weekend. So at Hungary again, this is a circuit where you basically would run both your new sets in qualifying because the tyre is so peaky. You do the same at Spa if it's dry. You basically will send a driver out, have an out lap, 2 flying laps in, change the tyres, out again. At other circuits like Donington, you might we'll run on the same set of tyres all the way through, and then we've got another set to use throughout the weekend, and then you can do a mixture of things. For example, you can what we call side the tyres, where each side you literally just do that to them to try and, Donington being a good example of it, actually lots of right-handers, so you basically never really use the right side of the car, so you swap the tyres over so that the less used side is now on the more used side of the car, and then you can get a bit more tyre life out of it that way, and then you'll get into using the new tyres at some point in the weekend. Again, this is all part of like how we feel what we can do with where we've qualified, so it's really crucial. That Thursday and Friday is super crucial as a coach to basically be working with your driver to try and get the most out of the car. So in GB3 you have a big variance of drivers in this championship. You have some drivers who are going into it in their 6th year of car racing. Some of them have already run in GB3 for a couple of years. Others, it's their first year. However, they've done 25 days testing before the start of the season. And other drivers come in having done 1 day of pre-season testing, and then they're straight into the championship. So there's quite a mix here, and those drivers that don't have the budget, either because of they haven't managed to build up the sponsorship or haven't got the family backing, then it basically means that you're a bit on the back foot. You might not get as much new tyre runs as you get in practice, and therefore it makes it extremely crucial to be working with the coach and the engineers to each session really maximise your learning to then progress forward. My driver, I was extremely proud of him at Donington. He really came on. He's one of those drivers that has done the 1 day of pre-season testing before the start of the year. It's only his 2nd year of car racing, and he drove fantastic throughout the weekend. He got, with it being raining throughout qualifying, that made things interesting, although he hadn't driven in the wet yet around Donington in a GB3 car, so it really threw him into the deep end, but he qualified great, and then he drove 2 great races. In the last race of the weekend, he actually made up 5 places in the race and was keeping pace with title contenders in the championship. So he really came on a lot, and it's great to see that progression when you're working with drivers, from taking them from being less experienced and struggling a little bit at the back to progressing to being that midfield, then eventually be attacking right at the front. It's really rewarding, and it's part of the reason you get into sport is that competitive spirit and all working together. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. Please do subscribe and like, and feel free to leave a comment below. See you guys at the circuit.